Hi, this is Peter Friedrich, and today we're speaking with Zafar Afaq about the Kashmir issue. Zafar, I want to welcome you and I want to thank you for your willingness to speak about this issue. You're from Kashmir, aren't you?
Thanks, Peter, for having me. Yeah, I'm a Kashmiri. I'm a journalist based in Srinagar. I originally come from a frontier district called Kupwara, and I have been covering Kashmir for past a couple of years. And I write for websites which are Kashmiri based, and I write for websites which are based outside Kashmir. I'm a freelance journalist basically at the moment.
So you just returned from Kashmir. How long were you there? And can you tell us a little bit? What was your general impression about what's going on there, the situation there?
I was throughout all this the current siege that's going on in Kashmir. I was there throughout up to yesterday. Then I booked the flight and came to Delhi for some work. The situation is, I think you must have read some of the reports, but the situation is really very pretty bad. There is a lot of the communication is one of the basic problems that people are right now facing. Apart from that, there is a massive presence of forces, and they have imposed a sort of curfew. The authorities call it Section 144, which is less than a curfew, but the clampdown is worse than what Kashmiris have already seen. So the situation is really right now bad.
When you say bad, when you say bad, what do you mean by bad? You say there's a large.
I mean, when I say the situation is bad, I mean people are not able to move freely. People who are not able to reach hospitals, there are barricades, there are restrictions imposed, and there is a forces presence. Then the most important issue that people face is about communication. No telephone work, no internet, no telephone network, nothing, no mobile services, no cellular services are working. They're all authorities have shut all the internet, all telecom services, and people are not able to even communicate internally. For example, if we have to meet a relative, if we have to get in touch with a relative, we have to visit their house. It's not like that you can communicate through phone, because internal communication is shut. You cannot connect with outside world. People get news only mostly through TV and radio transistors, which people have had usually now. They had left those transistors. Now it has again come to use in families, in households. People rely on news. People rely on radio sets and TVs to get news.
So this communications blackout has been ongoing since 4 August.
Yeah, since the night of August 4 and 5.
And this affects mobiles. It affects internet. It affects landlines. There's been some talk.
Everything. In Srinagar, some areas were like restored, and landline services were restored. But Kashmir is not just Srinagar. There are other 9 districts, and I haven't come across any reports or any instances where a landline service have been restored in rural areas. Yeah, they have set up some telephone booths in administrative offices and police stations where people go and try to connect with their loved ones who live outside Kashmir.
So at the moment, the only option for people to connect with their loved ones who live outside Kashmir is to go to these government offices in a few isolated areas. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. That's right. And there is another thing that I want to mention here, that the Kashmiris who live outside Kashmir, they have been trying to get connected with their families by sending small videos and voice notes to a TV channel. Then the TV channel broadcasts those voice notes in primetime TV. It's called Gulistan Television, which is locally watched a lot across Kashmir. And some of the people have tried to resort to that way and to get connected with the families back home.
So I've heard many Kashmiris that I've talked with, young Kashmiris who are trying to reach their families who are back in Kashmir, but these people, they're expatriated, they're living outside of Kashmir. They've described this as a violation of the basic human right of communications.
Absolutely. This is basically denial of rights. People here, since Indian Constitution operates in Kashmir, and people have, according to the Constitution, the right to communicate with their families. People have right to express their thoughts, express their views. But that has been right now kept at the aside, and such rights do not right now exist in Kashmir as far as I see them.
So, as a yes or no question, would you say that the blackout, the communications blackout, is still in effect?
Yeah, exactly. It's still in effect as it started on August 5. Nothing, not much has changed since then, except those telephone booths that government has set up in administrative office or police stations. But that's insignificant because for 8 million population, or for a district where the population is around 1 million, you have 1 or 2 telephone receivers to let people connect with their loved ones, which is insignificant and nothing in comparison to the requirement there.
What is the mood of the people there like now? There were some reports that they were celebrating after the scrapping of these articles.
No. There is no, in Kashmir Valley, people have not been able to express their feelings yet. Except that some reporters have tried to talk to people, and people are angry. People are basically shocked. They have not been able to process what has been done to them by the government in New Delhi. Like they have been stripped of this special status, and then people are really angry at what has the government done by taking this decision of abrogation of this special status, as well as turning state into a centrally administered union territory.
Are there any protests happening?
Yeah, there have been some. There have been protests, but they have a lot of protests have happened even in some villages. But they have not. Reporters have not been able to reach their coverage. So we don't exactly know what's happening in far off village. Whether people are allowed to come out, whether people have protested, carried out any rallies or something. We don't know much. But in Srinagar, in some areas, people have come out in rallies in numbers of hundreds, and there has been some incidents of violence where forces have resorted to firing pellets as well as tear gas, and it has caused injuries. According to some reports, a hospital treated over 150 injured who were hit with pellets, and some of them were hit in eye. A pellet are small metal balls that are fired from shotguns by government forces, and then those balls spread in the air. They are indiscriminate in nature. For example, if somebody is not part of the protest, even he can be hit by those pellets, as have been the instances in the past. So those pellet guns, those pellets have been again used this time, and as I have read reports or met some of the victims in hospitals.
So far I've heard, let me quickly ask you, I have heard from a few sources that there are some sporadic reports of human rights abuses, of atrocities, disappearances, torture. Have you heard anything like that?
See, right now, since this all started, government has not allowed people to exactly voice the opposition to the decisions. So they have arrested most of the political leaders, from those politicians who participate in elections that are conducted by India there, as well as the politicians who resist Indian rule, which is called the Hurriyat. So they have arrested most of the leadership, as well as civil society activists, lawyers, business people, and put them in jails in Kashmir as well as outside Kashmir. Some of them have been flown outside Kashmir. So that's one of the actions that government has taken. And as government has not come out with how many numbers, like how many people they have arrested. When journalists ask them questions in press conferences, tell us the number of people you have arrested, they just decline to answer that question. But some of the reports, some of the journalists have tried to get reports through sources, and one report says that it's over 2,000 people have been so far arrested. So it's considered as one of the biggest mass arrests that India has conducted in Kashmir.
And I just read an article.
Then there is another dimension to it, that there are youth who government sees that they are conducting these rallies or protests. So they go into the night into neighborhoods and then barge into the homes, and then they arrest and nab those youth and put them in police stations and jails. And the families are usually not allowed to then meet those they arrest.
And many of these are teenagers, aren't they?
There is one. Yeah, many of them are below 18 years old usually, and they are not given the treatment that juveniles deserve, as per some of the reports I have come across. And then there is another incident that one of the elected members, who is right now a sitting deputy mayor of Srinagar city, even he is under arrest.
So I want to ask you about something that just happened yesterday, where the Press Council of India issued a statement where they defended this communications blackout, and they said that this ban on communication and free movement is, in their words, in the interest of the integrity and sovereignty of the nation. What is your impression of that? And let me also ask you, what's the nature of free press in Kashmir right now?
Right now, there are two things here. In Kashmir, there are journalists who write for Indian websites, who write for websites outside Kashmir. Then there are journalists, then there are newspapers that exist in Kashmir. They have not been able to update their websites as we speak right now. From one of the newspapers that is widely circulated in Kashmir is called Greater Kashmir. Its website has been last updated on August 4 or August 5, I guess. And so far, the news they have covered, it has not come up on their website. It's just that they print those newspapers some of the newspapers have been able to publish, but they don't update their websites. Those newspapers usually, the circulation remains usually confined to Srinagar city and some of the adjoining towns. It doesn't usually, the newspapers don't reach to villages. That's one aspect of it. Then you talked about this Press Council of India. See, ideally they should, as journalists, as press people, they should uphold the right of freedom of expression. But this time they have just told the line of the government that Kashmir right now, this freedom of expression, the right to freedom of expression has been suspended, and they are supporting the government. I don't think they should have gone that way, but now they have taken that line to support the government. This is something I would say that they should have, at least being journalists, they should have asked the government to let free press operate in Kashmir.
Why do Kashmiris believe this is happening to them right now? From your time, and you were there for 18 days, is that correct?
Yeah, exactly.
From your time there and speaking with Kashmiris, what is their impression of why this is happening to them right now?
See, the government basically took this decision, but it seems that they don't want anyone to voice opposition. So they had expected that Kashmiris will protest against the decisions that they have taken with regard to this autonomy, as well as other decisions. So people think that the reason there has been this clampdown is because government does not want people to oppose or come out and protest against government's decision. So that's why people think that there is this clampdown. But historically, Kashmir, since is regarded as an internationally recognized dispute, so Kashmiris have protested in previously as well. Like there have been mass protests in 2016, in 2010, in 2008, and there is also an insurgency raging against Indian rule. So Pakistan is considered as a party to dispute. So Kashmir has multiple times seen such sieges, curfews, clampdowns, internet suspensions. Like the most of the shutdowns in the world have happened in these internet shutdowns have happened in Kashmir. So Kashmiris are not surprised that government has imposed clampdown on them, except that it has been one of the worst clampdowns in terms of communication gag. Otherwise, people have been restricted to homes, curfew has been imposed, and this is something Kashmir sees quite frequently, and it's seen as normal there.
Yes, I actually recently spoke with a young Kashmiri who just returned from Kashmir to the United States. And in his words, abnormal is normal in Kashmir. What do you think of
that? Exactly. I kind of agree with how he has described this Kashmir case. In the rest of the world, you will see shutdown is considered as abnormal situation. But Kashmiris observe shutdown. Kashmiris have seen curfews. Kashmiris have seen clampdowns. So it's not like Kashmiris are used to such things, and they know how to survive in such situations. But the nature of the clampdown this time is that this communication has been blackout is complete and absolute. People are not have not been able to communicate with their loved ones, and that's a reason of one worry. Then there is another issue, like currently in rural areas, this life-saving drugs are right now in decline. They are not available in drug stores, and because they have not been able to communicate with the dealers to place orders. So this is one issue right now that government should, I think, look into.
In your opinion,
Because
from your perspective, from your knowledge, what is the level of the troop presence in Kashmir right now?
There are different reports. Government has not come out with any number, but already there is a 500,000 presence of troops in Kashmir, and to add to that, they have, I think, over nearly 100,000 more paramilitary forces have been sent to Kashmir when government was planning to take these decisions. So there is an added forces presence, and they are right now fanned across the streets, all roads, and are right now those are in towns and villages and cities are occupied by forces, and they regulate the movement of public. Like if somebody wants to take his car out and go to hospital or any other work, so he will encounter a lot of forces, and they will ask him, why are you going and where are you going? So he will have to explain, and if sometimes they check those back and ask to go back home.
Is it possible to go to a cafe, go to a supermarket without encountering
No.
forces?
Basically, there are no supermarket, no cafes right now open. So people don't go to cafes these days and go to supermarkets. It's usually that people go to hospitals or sometimes to meet relatives to check in whether they are about their well-being. It's like supermarkets, shops, business establishments, cafes, they are all shut. Kashmiris are observing shutdown as well right now. It's not like Kashmiris have resorted to normal business. If, for example, in my district called Kupwara, government had eased relaxations on last Monday. Yeah, previous Monday they had eased restrictions, but people stayed indoors. They kind of they resisted the government's efforts of easing restrictions. Instead, they observed shutdown that day. So because people see shutdown is seen as a form of protest instead of coming out in rallies, so people just stay indoors and keep their shops, keep their vehicles, keep their cars at home, and shops closed. So this is also one of the form of protest that Kashmiris resort to often.
As we move to a conclusion in our conversation, one of my final questions for you is, with this conflict that's been going on, with this latest action in Kashmir, the scrapping of these articles, the shutdown of the state, the communications blackout, do you feel like people in India or around the world are listening to the voices of Kashmiris speaking about what they want for Kashmir? Have they been asking Kashmiris what they want for Kashmir?
See, from past experiences, as Kashmiris have protested previously, as well as seen human rights abuses, seen the actions of the state, I don't have much hope from in international community or from people in India. Yeah, there have been some independent and isolated voices where people have opposed it, but whether that will have any impact on the government to either show some relaxation or even to the extent that they can reverse decision, I don't have much hope.
What do you see for the future of Kashmir, Zafar?
I see Kashmiris protesting, because Kashmiris have been protesting for long, and I don't think they have yet given up. But I think the situation will be like people will resist, but I don't have much hope like situation improving in terms of government giving any relaxation or any political outreach to people. Maybe government may try later on to talk to politicians, but it also depends upon how Kashmir society or people in general will react, whether they will reconcile with what has been done to them, or whether they will come out and protest. I don't have much hopes, like, in terms of situation improving.
Well, Zafar Afak, I want to express my deep gratitude to you for sharing what you have experienced. Is there anything else you had to add?
No, not much. I think we have discussed it enough.
All right, sir. Well, then I wish you well, and I stand with you in solidarity, especially in supporting the freedom of the press on a universal
Yeah,
level
exactly.
around the world.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you so much.